What's going on, guys? It's John here from Hot Take Hockey to talk about the Washington Capitals and potential trade targets for them as we move towards the trade deadline. So if you're here, please subscribe, drop a like, be here to support the channel, and be here to see pretty cool content as we move into the playoffs. Let's talk about targets for the Caps. So the Caps, coming off obviously the 2018 Stanley Cup, they're a team that wants to win now. You've got Ovi just at the latter part of his prime, Nick Backstrom, TJ Oshie, John Carlson, the list goes on, and then Braden Holtby in net. You want to win now with this team. So there's going to be targets for them that are up there. There's going to be more depth pieces to look at. The Caps don't have a lot to offer. Obviously, you have draft picks. You have a first-round pick that you might want to consider giving up. But in terms of prospects, you've got three big ones. We'll talk about those guys. But let's talk about the guys that they would hypothetically or be most interested in targeting. It'd be a top 9 forward. There's support there that could be needed on the back end. We'll talk about that 4 spot, but guys they could look at Gustav Nyquist from the Red Wings. The Red Wings are probably wanting a first-round pick for Nyquist. You saw the return they got on Thomas Tatar last year. So the Caps got to consider that. Do they really want to give up a first-round pick for a possible rental? If they could lock up Nyquist long-term maybe, then they consider that. But then the cap hit will be up for question, and the Nyquist contract could look something like what the Sharks signed Evander Kane to, and I don't know if the Capitals would be interested in that. A familiar name in Marcus Johansson. Maybe they look at the Devils, who are obviously not in the playoff conversation, and bring back a familiar face in Johansson and fill out that top 9. Charlie Coyle with the Wild. The Wild are really confusing right now whether they're in playoff push or not. I feel like the Caps could look at a Charlie Coyle who's really versatile and can play both center and wing, and as much as you got the Kuznetsov, Backstrom, and Eller, Coyle could be really effective in a playoff run. Another big name would be Puljujarvi with the Oilers. This one, obviously, he's Finn. He's got that European attribute that the Capitals obviously like developing their players with. I don't know. For me, I think there could be a trade scenario involving Burakovsky and Puljujarvi. The Oilers seem like they're trying to get Puljujarvi still developing, and they're going to send him down to the Condors. But maybe there's something involved because there was some kind of rumors at one point that the Oilers were interested in Burakovsky. So maybe a Burakovsky, Puljujarvi, maybe some other pieces in there. Just throwing that out there. And Alec Martinez with the LA Kings. I know there's actually been a lot of talk, and I know like the fans kind of go crazy sometimes, of like an Ilya Kovalchuk joining Alex Ovechkin with the Capitals. That wouldn't work. I mean, a 6.25 AAV against the Cap for 2 additional years. I don't know if that works for the Capitals, especially with Kovalchuk's age and just he hasn't been in the NHL. I'm not sure if the Capitals would do that as much as it would be fun to watch him play with Ovechkin. I just don't see that working out. But Martinez is a possible fit to fill up your top 4 there in Washington. It would allow a guy like maybe Kempney to fall to the bottom pair with a Madison Bowie or Christian Juice. But we'll see what happens there. Valery Nichushkin with the Dallas Stars. He's kind of fallen out of favor with Dallas. He obviously came back from the KHL, and now he really isn't fitting there. The depth in Dallas is kind of horrible. Maybe the Caps can help him out. Maybe I'm not saying it would involve Burakovsky, but Nichushkin, maybe the Russian aspect of the Capitals could be an interesting. And Chris Kunitz, I know he was on the side of Pittsburgh at one point, obviously for his career. He's played for Anaheim, now with Chicago, Tampa Bay as well. But Kunitz is, I think, a good bet. He could slide in on that 4th line. Obviously, you have like Travis Boyd there. You have Stevenson. I mean, Smith Pelly's also been a healthy scratch a couple of games. The Capitals probably just want enough depth forwards to be comfortable at least with their 4th line, because their 4th line was huge last playoffs. So that's definitely something to consider. And Nikita Zadorov is another one. Zadorov with the Avs. The Avs have fallen out of playoff favor right now. Zadorov could be an interesting target to play on your 2nd or 3rd pairing on the defense for the Caps. Again, that Russian aspect, always thinking about that with the Capitals. So that's the targets I'm thinking about. Who they could give up. Obviously, that 1st-round pick, if they're willing, maybe a 2nd-round pick, B-level prospect. They also have to consider Jacob Vrana. Vrana, who's also a pending RFA, they have to consider what they're going to do with him. They would have to sign both him and Burakovsky. And for example, with Burakovsky, for a qualifying offer, it's like $3.25 million. So the Capitals definitely have to consider what they're doing with that, and I think they've had more problems with Burakovsky. But I do want to stress, In terms of your top 3 prospects, as I said in front of the video, you do not want to give up Alexeyev. You do not want to give up Lucas Johansson. You do not want to give up Ilya Samsonov. Ilya Samsonov is an up-and-coming goalie. He's going to be a number 1 goalie. And, of course, you have Holtby. You have a really solid backup in Phoenix Copley. But you want to watch Samsonov develop and become something before you deal him. And Johansson and Alexeyev, they look like they're going to be real NHLers. So you don't want to give up your big, young prospects. So that's just my take on it. So with the Capitals, especially that they don't have this big prospect pool, you want to keep the top prospects you have. And I express that for teams like Nashville, Toronto, Tampa. As much as you want to build and keep contending at a top level, you don't want to give up the next guys in line who are going to follow after the Ovechkins and the Backstroms and the John Carlson. So that's my video. Hopefully you guys see where I'm coming from with the targets. The Capitals are definitely harder because, I mean, coming off the Stanley Cup championship, you don't really want to mess too much with what you've got. So we'll see what the Capitals do. I think there's going to be some consideration into getting a top 6, top 9 forward. Maybe you can slide TJ Oshie with Lars Eller. There's definitely options for the Capitals, but it'll be interesting to see if this team can push for a back-to-back Stanley Cup championship with Alex Ovechkin. So please subscribe to the channel, drop a like, support us here. It'll be exciting to see what happens with all the teams towards the trade deadline and into the playoffs. All right, guys, this is John from Hot Take Hockey. Peace out.